Hello everyone, to another Langrisser Mobile video with Last on Pizza. And today we'll be covering the top 64 round match between ZoD and YOASOBI. And there are a few little interesting things in here in this match that I'll explain once we get to when they happen. But in case, just to give you an idea why this video wasn't posted earlier, the recording I initially made during the match actually got corrupted because my OBS actually crashed during the stream. So I have to re-record this. Well, I have to re-record some of my commentary on the matches. But in case, let's get into the matches. So let's go with a quick box breakdown. 1 second. So, as you can kind of see, both ZoD and YOASOBI have fairly rush-oriented boxes. ZoD has pretty much only one tank, and all of his units have very long legs as well. While YOASOBI has a very similar setup, but instead of being more single target-oriented, it's more AoE-oriented. In any case, let's get into the match. So, YOASOBI gets rid of ZoD's juggler because YOASOBI probably doesn't know that the juggler is cavalry, and then ZoD bans out Sage because Sage can mess up some of his units, specifically Elwyn, Rosalia, Ares, and Illustrial. And then ZoD, oddly enough, ZoD has Rosenseal in his box, and I'm kind of wondering why, because his box is it has very high mobility, so generally AoE isn't too much of a factor. Well, shouldn't be too much of a factor on his team, but it's a fairly good pick because YOASOBI has a lot of AoE units and has a lot of those AoE units can inflict nasty debuffs. So here, YOASOBI gets rid of Florentia and Sage. Florentia has the Act Again and multiple good utility to her, and then Sage also can kind of block out YOASOBI's units. But I think the only two who would really be affected by that would be probably Deedlit and Ares and Elwyn. So I'm just kind of curious if Sage was really that a high priority ban. In any case, ZoD picks up Elwyn, which is very good because YOASOBI doesn't have any tanks to take hits from him. And then YOASOBI gets rid of Lolly Jessica and Ares for the displacement and long range, and then Lolly Jessica for the teleports. And then YOASOBI picks up Ares for his long range and displacement. ZoD gets rid of SP Elwyn and Akai, and Elwyn just is very annoying to deal with his revive and long range, and Akaya's speed boost can make Ares extremely powerful. ZoD picks up Zerida here for her long range and good damage. And then YOASOBI gets rid of Yusuke and Hiei. And then YOASOBI picks up his Zerida to pretty much act as another unit that can pretty much one-shot probably any of ZoD's units. And then ZoD picks up Illustrial as another very long-range unit that can pick off YOASOBI's units. YOASOBI picks up Clotaire because Clotaire actually has a lot of range. He has 2 movement skills and he has very big AoE. And then YOASOBI is pretty much forced into Bozal at this point. And Rosenseal was actually a very good first pick because it can deal with Clotaire's debuffs and Bozal's debuffs very well effectively. And also another interesting thing is ZoD actually picked up catapults, which is very interesting because people usually don't run catapults due to their low damage, but just some interesting things about ZoD's setup is that he's bringing Slice Stride and Backstab, so essentially he's pretty much counting on Backstab to do enough damage to kill off any units. The Zerda also might be running Uller's Bow at the moment, so that also might be a reason why. Yeah, that also might be a reason why he's running catapults. Though, if I'm not 100% sure, but if he was running Uller's Bow, shouldn't Zerda technically have 4 effective range? I'll have to look into that later, but this is a very interesting setup for Zerda, to say the least. Illustrial, pretty normal stuff. Reen, pretty normal stuff, except he's bringing Roar, and that's mostly because YOASOBI probably won't be grouping up that much due to his team composition. Rosenseal, pretty standard stuff, and same with Elwyn. Clotaire, pretty standard stuff. Bozel brought a faction buff, Sleep, and Black Hole, and while I think it's effective, I'm not 100% sure it was the best idea, because essentially that he'll only have one chance to get rid of a bunch of Rosenseal's debuff, Crystal Guard talent thing. Oh yeah, and this Ares has a lot of attack. Wow. And I'm pretty sure this is like a full moon. Like, yeah, this Ares has really high attack. And unfortunately, YOASOBI didn't realize that he actually had his Zerda naked. So he's at a significant disadvantage because he essentially only has 4 units that can 4 units versus ZoD's 5 units. And yeah. And Florentia's setup is actually very interesting because she has only has 1 healing skill, but yeah, 1 healing skill, mass attack, and then winning strategy. And I think this is very smart because winning strategy gives her more of her tactics, gives her more tactics buffs once a unit is one of his enemy is killed. So essentially, it works really well with this rush style play, this tankless strategy that both teams are using. Okay, let's get into the match. So Elwyn is pretty much staying back, factions buffs, and then YOASOBI is trying to get the most out of this Zerda, so he faction buffs with her and moves her up. Rosenseal applies Mass Crystal Healing to herself, Elwyn, and Zerda. And then Bozel's pretty much just running in, so he can actually start applying pressure to ZoD with all of his debuffs. And then YOASOBI positions his Ares up very aggressively, so it looks like he's going to try to jump in against the Elwyn. So if YOASOBI acted again, Ares, he would be able to 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, he's out of range of Elwyn, so he can't pressure this Elwyn. Well, he can't one-shot this Elwyn. So that's pretty unfortunate. And then Clotaire moves closer to Illustrial to apply pressure to her, and then ZoD moves up his Reen, so he can pretty much land a nice his 3C on all of YOASOBI's units. So very good. ZoD has very good movement at this point. And then here YOASOBI uses mass attack to buff up his Clotaire, and then Clotaire moves in and moves into range to finish off, to attack this this Illustrial, and surprisingly enough, it actually kills off the Illustrial. Like, Jesus. Yeah, the Illustrial went from 0 to nothing. That also might be because Illustrial actually has not a lot of HP. And Clotaire, even though Clotaire does a lot of damage if you don't have fixed damage and immunity on him. So yeah, let's just watch that again. Yeah, it crits and then just finishes her off. It's I was pretty surprised when that happened. So yeah, ZoD just goes in, throws down his 3C, hits three of YOASOBI's units, and unfortunately, since YOASOBI brought Sky Archers instead of Force Priests, he can't really dispel any of these debuffs, so he's kind of in a bit of... Three of these units, well, Zerda is not really going to be useful, but Bozal and Ares just got a lot of nasty debuffs that'll hamper them from doing anything. So, YOASOBI sleeps Screen, which is pretty much the only thing he can do at this moment. And then YOASOBI sends in his Florentia, heals up his units with a Resounding Might, and it gives Florentia 2 more tactics buffs, and it gives Ares enough HP to just finish off Rain right here. And that gives Florentia a couple more tactics buffs. So this is actually a pretty smart move by YOASOBI. He pretty much moved Zerda into a position so Elwyn was forced to either attack Clotaire, Bozal, or Zerda herself. And this Elwyn won't be able to kill the Bozal because he has Lancer troops, but he will be able to demolish this Clotaire. And there he goes. So yeah, unfortunately, YOASOBI had to actually move Ares out of range of this Zerda because pretty much she's just applying so much pressure and has so much range, and she will one-shot this Ares even with just catapults. So yeah, Zerda tries to do some damage, but really can't, and then ZoD just positions his Zerda in a way that applies more pressure to Ares, and it's pretty much Ares is pretty much going to get killed next turn. Unless... So, YOASOBI is actually pretty smart, and he moves his Bozal Bozal and Florentia up in a way that actually prevents Zerda from attacking Ares this turn. So instead, Zerda is just forced to take out YOASOBI Zerda, which isn't too much of a big deal since the Zerda honestly wasn't doing much. And here, Ares finally gets into range and just finishes off Elwyn. So very, very good positioning and very good playing by YOASOBI on this part. And then Florentia gets a couple more tactics buffs, and the winning strategy tactics buff, it actually gives 2% to all stats except HP to all of the allied soldiers. So yeah, so pretty much all of YOASOBI's soldiers are very strong at this moment, but I just kind of want to go back and see Zerda's attack animation to see if she's actually using Ulers or not. There we go. Yeah, it looks like this. Yeah, it looks like this Zerda actually might have an Ulers, because it did look like she did some attack. Yeah, she did. So this Zerda actually has Ulers, which is very interesting, because usually Zerdas don't run Ulers. They run either Crystal Beasting or Extreme Magic Bow. So here, YOASOBI is trying to apply pressure, give Bozal some extra movement, so Zerda can't start getting her hide and seek buff again. But at this point, it doesn't really matter since ZoD has a healer, which is Rosenseal, who will just block all Bozal's buffs, well, debuffs, and Rosenseal can pretty much just heal up Zerda every time she gets hit. So YOASOBI unfortunately just does not have the damage to finish off this Zerda or this Rosenseal, because his soldiers are pretty much don't have 2-range attack. Yeah, his soldiers don't have 2-range attack. So if he tried to get the full damage from a 2-range attack, he won't. And yeah, and since Rosenseal's still up, she's just gonna prevent all of Bozel's debuffs, so really Bozel can't do much at this point. So Zod just uses Rosenseal's 3C, heals up his team, and then Zera's just gonna finish off Bozel with this. So yeah, first game goes to Zod, and here Straw lets me know that YOASOBI and ZoD agreed to let YOASOBI re-equip his Zerata. So YOASOBI just forfeits this match, so he can go do that, and then we restart a new match. And I believe, yeah, YOASOBI concedes here to just record the last, record his loss from the last match. And here, ZoD actually swaps in, not Sherry, but I can't remember her name at the moment. It'll come to me in a bit, but he swaps in her and Illustrial, and interestingly enough, not Sherry, but whatever. This unit, she's actually infantry rather than flyer, and that's actually pretty rare since most people run her as a flyer. Since essentially as a flyer, she's able to fully stack up her talent and essentially gives her 10 movement. So YOASOBI pretty much first picks Sage so he can start creating terrain and making it harder for units like SP Elwyn to get around. And then YOASOBI picks up Ares for his long range, and then ZoD picked up Zerata for her really long range. And yeah, ZoD picks up the girl whose name I can't remember right now, so I'm not gonna say it. And then YOASOBI picks up Leonhardt, which is actually very smart because Leonhardt's Fusion Dark Emperor Sword prevents act against effects, so if that girl tries to act again with Raging Thunder, or if Ares tries to use his 3C, then they'll be forced to just act only once. In any case, ZoD picks up Yusuke here because he'll be a good revenge killer, and he'll be able to clean up YOASOBI's team fairly easily since YOASOBI doesn't have a tank. YOASOBI brings Joshua to buff up Leonhardt and do some AoE damage. ZoD picks up Ares here, and then I don't agree with the ban with YOASOBI's last ban. I personally think he should have banned out Wally Jessica and Imelda, because that Imelda can provide on-demand two tile movement buff, and that's gonna put a lot more pressure on YOASOBI since it gives ZoD a bit more extra range against him. And then yeah, ZoD picks up Imelda. So what is her name again? Claret. Oops. Yeah. So we find out that ZoD is running infantry Claret right here, and then yeah, pretty standard stuff here. Like this Erdo is pretty much set up to just go in and one-shot a unit. Leonhardt is set up with his teleport, Fusion Dark Emperor Sword, and Air Slash, which is pretty much set up to essentially pick off a unit while also dealing massive damage to ZoD's team. Sage right here is just here to lay down terrain and be annoying. Joshua is mostly here to just faction buff and then probably clean up after Leonhardt. And then Ares just is here to just put a lot of pressure on ZoD and hopefully one-shot one of his units. We still have the interesting setup for Zerata right here. Pretty standard stuff on Ares over here. Same with Yusuke in this situation. The infantry Claret, and then pretty standard stuff on Imelda. In any case, So YOASOBI starts laying down Sage's terrain, so he can essentially gain the map control. And it doesn't help that he is also P1, but unfortunately for him, ZoD actually gets a speed boost on Claret, so she does not care about any of this Sage terrain, and she has a lot of threat range at the moment. So yeah, just want to show Claret's threat range at the moment, because Claret can pretty much attack is in range to hit either Zerda or Sage, but in all likelihood she would be able to just go in and one-shot Zerda, which is not good for YOASOBI. And so YOASOBI starts positioning Ares in a position where you can start pressuring ZoD more. And here, Ares has enough movement to actually go and hit Sage, but YOASOBI kind of realizes that he needs to go in at this moment and try to take out, tank Ares' 3C. And he actually almost survives, because he's on Classal Walls, he retains his damage reduction buffs. It's just that, yeah, unfortunately, the second part of Ares 3C picks him off. And I was actually discussing this with Loomis, and if Leonhardt was running Mirror Armor, this Ares would have died, which actually would have let him live and probably would have won YOASOBI the match. But choosing heavy armors for units can be a bit iffy. So yeah, YOASOBI pretty much lost map control, and he lost his Leonhardt. So he's pretty much just trying to put more pressure on ZoD so he can get map control back, but he really can't do much because Claret is just being too much of a threat at the moment, and she just has so much movement and does not care about Sage's terrain at all. So there's only so much he can do at this point. But yeah, it's just not looking very good at YOASOBI because Leonhardt got picked off there. Oh, and here ZoD actually baits YOASOBI into hitting his Yusuke from here, because what's gonna happen is, one second, I'll get to it after this. So takes out the Yusuke, and then he pulls in both Claret and Imelda, and that pretty much puts Claret in range of all of YOASOBI's units. So pretty much YOASOBI just went in and suicided Ares because he's still in range of Zerda, and then Claret can just go in and hit any of YOASOBI's units at this point. So interestingly enough, Zerda actually lives against Claret, and that's mostly because this Claret has very low attack, and that's because she's actually running a Crystal Bee Sting. So yeah, the Claret whiffs the kill, which is very surprising, but it also just cripples Zerda since she can't get hide and seek back, and YOASOBI really doesn't have any healing on him besides Zerda's faction buff. And so yeah, Zerda just goes in and takes out the Ares. So yeah, it's 4v3 and now 3v3 now, but ZoD just has so much movement and so much map control at the moment that YOASOBI really can't do much. Yeah, so pretty much YOASOBI is more or less forced to go in if he wants to heal his Zerda. And yeah, it's just not looking good at all. Also, this is a very interesting play that YOASOBI did, because it pretty much prevents Ares from going in and killing off Zerda this turn, but it's not enough to salvage this match. And YOASOBI tries to actually go in and heal his Zerda with Gift of Eternal Life, but Sage ends up taking more damage taking a ton of damage, and it's, it doesn't do much. So, yeah, Ares just goes in on Sage and pretty much takes him out with his 3C and Noble Charge. And yeah, that's the match. Yeah, it's just very unfortunate things that happened to YOASOBI, like the Tenyo's buff on Claret was just devastating this game, and then not having his Zerda set up last game just really hurt him. So yeah. But overall, I'd say the plays that both players made were very good. This is some of the highest level play I've seen, like, reviewed so far. And yeah, good job to ZoD for just doing a lot of good plays. YOASOBI, I think your overall strategy was very good. It's just there's a couple mistakes like the Zerda thing, and then some bad luck with the Tenyos that really just sunk your chances of winning. But I'd say good game to both players, and I really enjoyed watching them. In any case, that's all from me. I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later. Bye.